Coming up on this episode, Steve Kerr returns to the Warriors on a new 2-year contract. I'll discuss what that means for Golden State moving forward, plus the result of Sunday's draft lottery and the ramifications for the Warriors after obtaining the 11th overall pick. Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates podcast. Hope you've all had a good weekend. Let's start with the news from Saturday where Steve Kerr has signed a new 2-year contract to return to the Golden State Warriors, with ESPN's Shams Charania reporting that it is a deal that will keep Kerr as the highest paid coach annually in the NBA. I was fairly on the fence when it came to this decision, didn't have a strong thought really either way, but there's no doubt that this decision certainly brings some interesting aspects to monitor at the Warriors moving forward. I would characterize re-signing Kerr as the safe move for the Warriors at a time of some uncertainty for the franchise and exactly where they're at. Obviously, re-signing your head coach who's been in the position for the past 12 years maintains some continuity, particularly when he's got such great relationships with your veteran guys who have been there for even longer than that, and Steph Curry and Draymond Green. I have no doubt that their input and their desire to see Kerr come back certainly played a role in the Warriors being more than willing and opening their arms to Kerr returning, despite the Warriors having missed the playoffs now in 4 of the past 7 seasons and finishing 10th in the Western Conference this season. I think trying a different coach, whether that was an experienced one who's been in the NBA before or an untried younger college coach or something like that, that would have been a risk. Now, it might have been a risk worth taking. It might have rejuvenated the franchise. I think there's enough history in the NBA and in other sports as well to see that that can often be the best thing for a franchise, particularly after having the same head coach for such a long time, having just a different voice, different energy in the locker room. Maybe that might have been the best thing for the Warriors, and we won't know in the fullness of time. But it also could have gone the other way if you'd gone down that path. It could have been a real disaster in terms of what may have happened in the immediate short term. And the immediate short term is that Steph Curry is 38 years old, running out of time here to try and get Steph a 5th championship, or not. I don't think that's even the expectation anymore, to be honest, as much as we would like it to be. It's like, can he play some relevant basketball? Like, I really enjoyed, we had a lot of fun with that first playing game, against the Clippers. And we look back at it now and say, man, it's a playing game, like the 9-10 playing game. He didn't even make the playoffs. But even that one-off game was enough to suggest to us, like, can we at least get, I don't know, another second round playoff matchup or something like that in these next couple of years? Maybe you can sneak your way to the Western Conference Finals. And if you're in the last 4, then maybe you've got a chance for the title. Who knows? If we want to say the championship is the expectation, I think that's going to be pretty difficult. Draymond himself said that on ESPN a few days ago. So at the end of the day, having a veteran team, having Steph Curry, I think the safe move is to re-sign Steve Kerr. If you look at like Steph himself, if Steve doesn't come back, you try someone else, and particularly if it was like a rookie head coach or something like that, then that brings some uncertainty that might force Steph to look around and say, hey, do I really want to sign a 1 or 2-year extension this offseason? Or would I prefer to see how things play out? Now, maybe, again, it might be best for us, but I want to wait and see what we look like on the floor and how my relationship with this new head coach builds before I go signing a 1 or 2-year extension, which he's now eligible for in August. And of course, if things did go south with a new head coach and the Warriors weren't a playoff team next season, Steph Curry is set to be a free agent. If he doesn't sign that extension this offseason, he's set to be a free agent next year. So the disaster would be Steph Curry actually looks around and says, I don't want to be here anymore, which I think would be very unlikely. Maybe with a new head coach, he would have signed the extension anyway. But re-signing Steve Kerr, I think, significantly increases the chances of Steph Curry signing that extension, whether it's a 1 or 2-year extension. It might just be a 1-year extension to align with Kerr, which means both would be out of contract after the 2027-28 season. Given how close it seemed he was to departing this time around, I would be shocked if Steve is coach of the Golden State Warriors beyond the 27-28 season. I think there's a good chance Steph plays beyond 27-28 season where he'll be 40 at that point. But who knows what happens in the next 2 years? This is a long time frame, a long next phase. Anything can happen in the next 2 seasons for both Steph individually and the franchise overall. So I think importantly, bringing Steve back, again, maintains that continuity, which makes Steph much more likely to sign an extension with the Warriors this offseason and relieve some angst, I suppose, among the fan base, because if Steph doesn't sign that extension, goes into the season on an expiring contract and he's set to hit for agency in 2027, then maybe we get a little bit nervous, right? Maybe we get a little bit nervous of the potential of him departing as a free agent next offseason. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but obviously if he doesn't sign the extension, that's a bit of a problem. And again, Steve Kerr returning makes that much more likely. We won't know that exactly until we get to August when Steph can officially sign that contract. But I think this is certainly a step in the right direction when it comes to Steph re-signing with the franchise and solidifying his future, at least over the next couple of seasons. The other thing to me here, again, I'm sitting on the fence on this, but I am hopeful that Steve Kerr re-signing with the Warriors is a signal that the Warriors have something cooking this offseason. And ESPN's Anthony Slater referred to that on his appearance on the TK show last week now. Earlier in the week, US time, it's still Sunday. Spoke about the idea that the coaching choice could determine or could signal what the Warriors have going this offseason. So is there a chance that Mike Dunleavy Jr. as general manager, Joe Lacob as the owner, have spoke to Steve in their multiple meetings and given some kind of assurance to say, hey, we're really, really confident that we can get another big name player in here to either replace Jimmy Butler if Jimmy has to go out in the trade, or at least allow us to keep our head above water and be a competitive team and a reasonable team before Jimmy gets back. And then once Jimmy gets back, maybe we can really make some noise and be a top 6 seed in the Western Conference next season. Because if I'm Steve Kerr and I'm looking around and thinking, Jesus, this roster really got what it takes to be a playoff team. Do I want to be coaching another season where we're battling just to make the play-in tournament? No, I don't want to be doing that. Okay, I want to be coaching a veteran contending team. Again, even if it's not championship or bust, can I at least get to the second round of the playoffs? And he would have assessed that and evaluated that over the past couple of weeks. And maybe part of it was Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Joe Lacob saying to him, you know what? We're confident we can make a big move. And so therefore, as a fan, I'm hopeful that Steve Kerr re-signing is a signal that, hey, the Warriors do have something in the works here. Whether it's a veteran star like Giannis, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, another big move that we haven't really discussed yet. I'm sure there'll be plenty of names come up during the offseason, but I'm hopeful that something can be done here. ESPN Shams Charania reported on Sunday that the Warriors are looking to pair Steph Curry with another star, which is fascinating to me because, again, does that mean they're open to trading Jimmy Butler? Because another star is generally a player making over $40, perhaps $50 million. Does that mean Jimmy's going to be on the trade market, on the trade block, and they're going to use that contract? Because as I've spoken about before, it doesn't seem to me as if the Warriors will be able to have the salary matching to be able to go out and get another $40, $50 million player without using Jimmy. They've got Draymond's $27.1 million, $27.6 million player option if he opts in that they could use. Moses Moody making around $12, $13 million. That gets you to about 40. But really, that's about it, right? And then Kristaps Porzingis is a free agent, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to do a sign and trade there because who's offering KP a 3-year deal, which it has to be in order for a sign and trade to be possible. So it has to be Jimmy, right? Unless, again, there's a player and you can shop around the $25 to $35 million range if Draymond opts in and utilize that. But either way, whatever it is, I'm hopeful that Steve coming back suggests that, hey, the Warriors believe they can put together a more competitive team and a more dangerous team than what we saw this season, which was obviously ravaged by injury. The problem with those injuries is it's now going to impact next season, the start of next season. Jimmy probably missed the first half. Moses, there's doubts on whether he'll come back at all. So we've got to look at this and say, how can the Warriors at least stay alive and remain a decent team early next season? And then if Jimmy does remain, you get him back mid-season and see what you can do from there. So that's the biggest thing to me to monitor now, right, is what does this mean for the roster? Okay, because I do think Steve Kerr returning, and I spoke about this on a previous episode, Steve Kerr returning does make the Warriors more appealing to a veteran star to come and play with. LeBron James has a relationship with Steve Kerr from winning gold together at the Paris Olympics. I'm not saying Steve Kerr is going to be a big factor in trying to lure LeBron James away from the Lakers, but I think LeBron would be turned off by the idea of like playing for a rookie head coach if Steve Kerr had departed, right? Same with Giannis, Kawhi, anyone who's in their 30s just looking to win another championship, playing for a coach who's been there, done that, won 4 titles, whatever you want to say about Steve Kerr, like he has experience in history, right? Much more so than going and grabbing a head coach from college, right, who has not done anything in the NBA, hasn't coached a single second in the NBA. So I do think it makes the Warriors more appealing to veteran stars. And so let's hope the Warriors have something cooking. Tim Kawakami in the San Francisco Standard wrote in the aftermath of Kerr's re-signing, wrote, the Warriors believe they can land another big-time player like Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James this offseason, which means Kerr is by far the best coach for the next few seasons. And I totally agree with that. So let me know what you think. Are the Warriors showing us here with Steve Kerr's re-signing that they are ready to make another big move this offseason? Do you have optimism of that? Or are they going to go down a path where they just keep Steph and Jimmy and do what they can in free agency? Draymond comes back, Kristaps comes back. What do you think the plans for the offseason are? We had the NBA draft lottery on Sunday, which I got up for bright and early, 5 a.m. my time here in Australia, and really did that for no apparent reason because the Warriors stayed at the 11th overall pick, which they had a 77.2% chance of doing. They had the 11th best odds for the number 1 overall pick. Unfortunately, weren't able to jump up into the top 4, but that doesn't mean that there's not some interesting aspects to monitor here over the next 6 weeks before the draft, not only with them, but other results from Sunday's lottery. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Warriors use this 11th overall pick now, and particularly after re-signing Steve Kerr to that 2-year contract extension on Saturday. I was a little bit surprised with the timing of that because I thought the Warriors might have waited just in case they did jump up into the top 4, and obviously the future of their franchise could have been shifted dramatically if that was the case. But now with the 11th overall pick, there's a couple of different directions the Warriors could go. Do you still at that pick just take the best available prospect regardless of what they're necessarily going to give you in the short term? Or do you go for a ready-made contributor? And we've already seen plenty of links, or I've already seen plenty of links on social media between the Warriors and Yaxel Lindenborg, who's obviously a very divisive lottery prospect as a 23-year-old who's going to be 24 by the time next season starts. That is incredibly old to be a lottery pick, I suppose, but we know what he did with the Michigan Wolverines this season, leading them to the NCAA championship. Victory over UConn, played through the MCL sprain that he suffered in the semifinal, I think there, averaged over 15 points per game this season, shot over 50% from the floor, 6'9" forward. Certainly feels a positional need for the Warriors, as well as being one of obviously the most ready-made prospects, a guy that can come in and be a rotation player for you straight away. And is that the kind of guy the Warriors are going to target? I think there's a reason why we've seen Lindenborg's name come up so much on social media, including from Warriors insiders like Bonte Hill and Danny Emmerman in the aftermath of securing the 11th overall pick. Clearly, the Warriors, having re-signed Steve Kerr, are still trying to be as competitive as possible. They're not doing any kind of reset or anything like that. They are trying to be as competitive and build the best possible roster they can around Steph Curry next season. If that is the aim, and the aim here is to still try and get the number one priority is to try and get Steph back to playoff relevance, then obviously a guy like Axel Lindenborg is going to be far better for you in the immediate short term than an 18 or 19-year-old kid who still has some plenty of time to develop. Now, it's super fascinating because there's arguments to be made on both sides. There's the argument that, yeah, sure, the Warriors should try and get a ready-made contributor right now. And you can make the argument that without Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody to start next season and having traded Jonathan Kuminga to the Hawks at February's mid-season deadline, the Warriors lack wing forward options so much that depending on what happens in the remainder of the offseason, Axel Lindenborg could legitimately start for this team early next season. Like, legitimately be a starter. 6'9" forward, guy that you can plug in at the 3 or the 4, probably the 3, maybe alongside Draymond. He's probably more of a 4, but who knows what the Warriors genuinely lack so much in the way of like wing forward types right now. I mean, they lack kind of a bit of everything because when you look at it, like there's 6 guys under contract, fully under contract so far for next season. So you could say they lack a lot of things, but I think particularly after losing Jimmy and Moses to injury, like very clearly you need to try and address your depth at that position. And I think Lindenborg could do that to the point where he might even come into training camp and be a starter for you entering next season. The other aspect is that, well, you should have done that 5-6 years ago when you had your 3 lottery picks back then. You take James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga with top 10 picks. You should argue that the Warriors should have used those picks on more ready-made contributors because at that point, the Warriors were closer to championship contention. They proved that by going and winning the 2022 title without any impact really from James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga as recent top 10 picks. So at that point, Steph Curry was 32, 33 years old. Perhaps the Warriors should have traded, in hindsight, the Warriors should have traded down from the 2nd overall pick, got another asset, moved down in the lottery, potentially got their hands on a Tyrese Halliburton or a Denny Avdia or something like that, or someone that would have made far more instant impact than what James Wiseman delivered. And then the same thing can be said, obviously, in 2021. They go for like the risky high upside swing in JK. Clearly didn't pay off whatsoever. I mean, it obviously was better than Wiseman, but now we've got to a point where Jonathan Kuminga is off the team and you got an expiring contract in Kristaps Porzingis in return. The Warriors name your player that they could have taken, that they should have taken. Franz Wagner's obviously the number one. They could have traded down and tried to, and maybe a Jalen Johnson, although it's saying that Jalen Johnson's taken his time to develop. Alperen Şengün, Trey Murphy III, whoever you want it to be. There's a number of players that the Warriors could or should have taken ahead of Jonathan Kuminga. Now, with Steph Curry 38 years old and the Warriors probably further away from championship contention, you could argue that, no, this is the time to actually take the high upside swing, to actually look at the future beyond Steph Curry. Do you look at a guy like Nate Ament, who very similar to Lindenborg in terms of position and size, like 6'9", Lindenborg 6'9", Ament 6'10", but in terms of ready-made players, there's a stark contrast between the two, right? Lindenborg is going to be a 24-year-old ready to go day one, you would think, as opposed to Ament, who is kind of a raw 19-year-old prospect who's probably going to take it a couple of years, who's not necessarily going to be able to help Steph Curry straight away, but for the post-Steph Curry era, might really give you something as like a 6'10" scorer, got all the tools and the physical traits. So which approach do the Warriors take here? It's going to be super fascinating to see what they do because there's an argument to be made for both sides of the equation. And it makes for some really interesting discussion, and I'll dive deeper into different prospects that the Warriors could consider at the 11th overall pick. Obviously, the last time they had the 11th overall pick, Klay Thompson in 2011 worked out perfectly for them. Can they try and repeat that success? Maybe a guy like Braden Burries, who's kind of got some Klay traits, I suppose, as like a 3-and-D guy, the Warriors could do with a backcourt teammate for Steph Curry. Now, does Burris become that straight away? Maybe not. Other guys around that range, seen a couple of mock drafts with Kareem Lopez going to the Warriors at 11. Ade Mara, who's Linda Ball's championship teammate at Michigan, 7'3", center, really good feel for the game, kind of a stick and skinny, could get, abused a bit out on the perimeter where the Warriors like to be switchable on defense or stuff like that. So whether he could make an impact straight away for Golden State in Steve Kerr's system, I'm not sure. Obviously, there's been some talk that we need to change, that Kerr needs to change the system a little bit and be a little bit more flexible than what he has been. And that would have been part of the conversations before he's returned on this new contract. So I'll dive deeper into prospects as we get closer to next month's draft. What I would be surprised with is if the Warriors trade the pick for just like a steady rotation player, right? Because I think there's enough talent and enough depth in this draft and specifically in the lottery where if the Warriors just want a steady rotation player next season, well, then just draft Lindenball. He's probably going to be it from day one. There's no point like trading that pick for name your player, but like someone who's not a star and someone who doesn't project to be a star, just like a fifth or sixth man in a rotation who's going to average 20 to 25 minutes. Like, I just don't think that's worthwhile. If you want that type of player, then just draft Lindenball, because the chances are that the player that you're trading for is not on a rookie contract and therefore more expensive. You might as well just get the 24-year-old who you can have on a rookie deal for the next 4 years, really cost controlled, and can make an impact for you on day one. But of course, you could also take the other approach of drafting for a higher upside guy who potentially could be a star for you, maybe not instantly, but in time and after the Steph Curry era to try and lead that. I would be shocked if the Warriors traded it for anything less than a star. And of course, if you want to trade for a star, it's probably going to take more than the 11th overall pick. I've already seen an interesting trade package where it was like, would the Warriors give up pick 11, another future first round pick, and Jimmy Butler for Kawhi Leonard? Something like that. I don't know. Wait and see. Speaking of Kawhi, the biggest other big surprise here, or the biggest thing that I took from the draft lottery from a Golden State standpoint, aside from just having their own pick at 11, is the Clippers being probably the most, or let's say the second most fortunate team after the Wizards, who obviously got the first overall pick. I would say the Wizards were the second most fortunate team from the lottery, getting the 5th overall pick from the Indiana Pacers. Obviously, that Ivica Zubac trade, the pick was protected 1 to 4 and then 10 onwards. The Clippers landing at 5 was the absolute perfect outcome for them, to the point where it now looks like they just robbed the Pacers blindly, and the Pacers are even having to come out, Kevin Pritchard, their president of basketball operations, coming out and flat out apologizing in retrospect for the trade, like flat out apologizing that their tanking season after losing Tyrese Halliburton to injury really culminated in nothing. They got Ivica Zubac, cool, but they were hoping to get Ivica Zubac and a top 4 pick, and instead they get nothing in the way of a lottery selection in a loaded draft. So an absolute nightmare for the Pacers, but great news for the Clippers. And I don't know what this will mean for how they view Kawhi Leonard's future. All I know is it will have to make some impact one way or the other. Do the Clippers look at this and say, now we've got another asset that we could trade, or maybe we just get like a young player who could be really good for us right away, and therefore we're now closer to contention than what we thought we were before Sunday's lottery results, and therefore we want to keep Kawhi around to try and literally win a championship with him, or at least, again, like kind of where the Warriors are at, try and compete for a deep playoff run. Or now, having got the 5th overall pick, do they say, no, we're more comfortable, we've got this big asset now, we're more comfortable with going into a mini reset, and we're actually more comfortable with trading away Kawhi if it means we can get more assets in? I don't know which way they're going to go here. If you're the Warriors and you're looking at it, you're hoping it's the latter, because obviously Golden State pursued a Kawhi trade after the Giannis thing kind of fell over and they got an indication that wasn't going to happen. The Warriors pursued a Kawhi trade before the midseason deadline. There's been multiple rumors in the past few weeks after both teams' seasons finished about a potential Kawhi to Golden State trade. They could certainly renew interest in. I'm not sure the Clippers are actually going to trade Kawhi to the Warriors. I'm not sure they do that and trade him directly to a Pacific rival. But Kawhi obviously would want to stay in California, I'd imagine, and would have some say on where he goes because he's on an expiring contract. I don't know. Maybe at 34 years old, a team would take a risk on him for a year. It's not going to cost the world, I wouldn't have thought, given his age and injury history. The Warriors would probably have to give up 2 first-round picks. I'd be surprised if it's anything more than that. Obviously, first-round picks are built different. Are there protections on that? Is it this year's first-round pick at 11? Who knows? We'll wait and see. But there is a chance that the Clippers landing the 5th overall pick here does increase the chances of a Kawhi Leonard trade. But I'm not ready to say that. I'm also saying that it could reduce the chances as well if the Clippers think with this asset they can be closer to contention themselves. Let me know what you think. Will the Clippers be more or less open to trading Kawhi Leonard as a result of Sunday's draft lottery? Fantastic news for them, and I'm going to be fascinated to see what it means for them and what they do heading into the offseason, and particularly with their star forward in Kawhi Leonard. I'm going to finish up there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. Follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode.